This vegan deli meat is not only easy to make, it's also incredibly good. In a recent poll, I asked you why you don't make seitan as much as you like, and you made it pretty clear that you just don't have the time. So to solve for this, we're making these slices in 5 minutes of active time with only 5 ingredients because it's sandwich meat, dang it, it should be easy, so let's go get it.
Start by filling up your steamer with water, and while that gets to a boil, add 2 cups or 250 grams of vital wheat gluten to a bowl. Just to prove that this is foolproof, I'm not weighing anything out, which longtime viewers will know that this drives me bonkers to not do, but seriously, don't scoop. Pour it in if you're gonna do this. If you scoop from the bag, you'll get too much in your little cuppy cup. Now season with 2 teaspoons onion powder, 2 teaspoons garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of salt,
And wait, what else? Is this it?
I mean, I don't know. We got that script from corporate, so it must be right?
All right, I guess it is that easy.
Now this is a base recipe designed to be as simple as possible, and these are the minimal viable seasonings, or as they call it in the business industry, MVS. Mix the dry gluten and seasonings with your hand to avoid dirtying yet another dish so that you disperse the seasonings. Now pour in 2 cups or 440 grams of cool water into the flour. Veggie stock would work here too. Start with your hand, it will feel pretty loose, but keep going and you'll feel it start to tighten up. As the dough starts to form, just start folding it onto itself to ensure that the gluten gets hydrated. Rub it around to make sure you clean the bowl of any gluten bits hanging on the sides so they don't dry on there later. What I love about working with wet dough is that usually there's no gluten that gets caked on the wall of your mixing bowl. Cleaning caked gluten is my least favorite thing about making seitan. Now squeeze it to move the hydration, and once there is no visible dry flour left, knead the dough 2 to 3 times just to make sure there are no pockets of dry flour trapped inside the dough. I moved mine to a cutting board so you could see it better, but it's best not to do that. Instead, do it all in your bowl so you have less to clean up. Let that rest while you grab a good sized piece of foil. Don't skimp on the foil. If you make seitan, I recommend spending a few extra dollars for the heavy duty roll. Ha 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 ha. That way you're less likely to have a break during the cook. Add the dough to the foil and shape into a log about 7 by 4 inches, but no need to bust out the measuring tape here. Just make it the size you'd like to have. The only rule is it needs to fit in your cooker. Just place your dough about 8 to 10 inches from the beginning of the sheet of foil, and then firmly, but gently, pull the foil over it, making sure not to crush it or squish it smaller. I like to roll it up, keeping the ends open like a tube of wrapping paper. Just imagine that you're wrapping a little present for your future self. Self-care. Once you're all rolled up, use your hand feelers to find the end of the dough and pinch right in front of that. Now gently twist the ends to seal the roast in the tube like a Tootsie Roll. This will do 2 things. It will trap the moisture in the dough, keeping it juicy. It will also allow the roast to keep its shape. Before we move to the critical next step, the cook, since we already have all this equipment out, we might as well make another, and this time let me show you how to use a few more ingredients to season it any way you like. If you don't mind busting out a seasoning rack, you can build a tower of flavor on this base recipe to chase that bold flavor dragon. Now if you're looking to easily make this flavored like beef, chicken, or ham, you can use a pre-made seasoning mix like these from Plant Basics that I got from the folks over at fakemeats.com, which is today's sponsor, but more on them later. Along with the onion powder, garlic powder, and salt in this base recipe, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of this beef seasoning. Pop in your water to make a dough as normal, mix the same way, wrap it up, and we're ready to go. Take your 2 little metal wrapped future deli meat babies and put them in an already steaming steamer. I like to stick a spoon in there to appease the steaming gods and make sure the water doesn't get too angry. Steam for 1 hour, which is the perfect amount of time to put away your ingredients, clean your mixing bowl, and for me to tell you about today's sponsor.
So as you can see, I've been loving these new plant-based seasonings from Plant Basics on fakemeats.com. These powdered seasonings go great with everything. Make anything taste just like chicken, beef, or ham. Use Plant Basics plant-based seasonings to make broth, mix in with your other spices to add a meaty flavor, or just sprinkle them on your favorite foods while they're cooking. These plant-based seasonings go great with their unflavored plant protein, and it's easy to make beef crumbles, chicken chunks, ham bits, and more. There are 3 varieties, just like chicken, just like beef, and just like ham. Get 15% off Plant Basics plant-based seasonings on fakemeats.com through July 2023. Use the coupon code BOLD235. Only on fakemeats.com. I've included all this information in the description below. Now back to the recipe.
At the half-hour mark, I like to check and make sure there is enough water in the pot to complete the steam. If there isn't, you can boil water separately and then add that right into the pot. After an hour, take them out and let your steamy boys cool down so we don't burn our high-five machines. But a quick note here before we unwrap, if you don't have a steamer, you can also bake. I tested baking these at 350 F for 1.5 hours, and while the final product was great, there were some areas where you can see it overheated in the oven versus the steamed version. Whenever I it looks like your seitan went to church, you know, holy, it probably means the roast cooked for too long or at too high of a temp. Now it's still cut up really good, it was still great on sandwiches, but it wasn't perfect looking, so I opted for recommending steaming in this video. If you don't care about that, then go for it. You can also pressure cook if that's more your thing. Put it on top of a steaming insert with a cup of water and pressure cook on high for an hour. Make sure to allow it to depressurize on its own. Now that these are cool enough to handle, let's unwrap our meaty presents. By the way, at this point, you can also huck them straight into the fridge in the foil if you want them to firm up for next day use. Let's unwrap our simple base recipe first. Don't mind me as I just kind of tear into this like an angry bear. I'm never able to unwrap mine well enough to save for future use, but if you can, kudos. It cuts up nice, has a nice grain, and has a mild seasoning flavor. I bet this is gonna go great on a sandwich. Now let's try out the beef flavored. The coloring went on top, but the next day it mellowed out quite a bit. I'm not sure what happened there, but it looks good. Now we're not done yet. These are gonna get sliced up and will look beautiful on a sandwich. Now here's some important tips on slicing. It is obviously easy to cut thick slices, but what if you want those beautiful thin slices you get at the deli? I already talked about letting it rest, that'll help firm it up, and a sharp knife obviously helps also. Another method is freezing them for 30 to 45 minutes to make them easier to cut. And while we're at it, while this is designed for sandwiches, you can also use this as an all-purpose seitan. For storage after an 8-hour rest, these freeze for a long time, meaning that if you could take an hour a month to make this, you can have sandwich meat for a long time with little effort. Each of these roasts makes the equivalent of 5 boxes of the stuff you buy at the store, so think about what you're gonna do with all that saved money. Now you can make a simple sandwich like this, or you can load up a sub with vegan mayo, hit it with some sliced and seasoned tomatoes, carefully apply your meat of choice. I'm doing fancy little folds here, but do what you like. Shred some lettuce, season with some salt and pepper, and pop on your mayoed bun. Now let us dig in. The seitan is well seasoned and when sliced thin adds a wonderful texture and flavor to any sandwich. I hope this saves you all time, money, and effort. If you like this video, you'd love the one that just popped up on your screen. And until next time, y'all, be nice to each other and keep cooking.